Hello guys, Von Al here. Know it's been a couple of days since I posted anything. Life, you know what I mean? Life be lifing. For those of you who have viewed my other videos, I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate it. Ultimately though, I hope that you got something out of it. That's the whole point. Today I'm going to do things a little bit different. The other videos I kind of brushed on the topic, but I'm being told to speak honestly. Well, that's what we're gonna do. What I'm about to say is going to sound far-fetched, beyond belief to some people. My hope, my knowing, actually, it's not hope, it's I know. There are some people out there who will completely understand. They have the same transformation that they're undergoing, I suppose. Needless to say, I'm just kind of gonna dive into it. The name Von Al, obviously not a name that my parents gave me, though I will give my mother credit. She came very close. My middle name is Von Al, just rearranged. But to the point of this video, I've kind of brushed on it in the other ones where my knowing comes from, but kind of going to disclose what I do know. And it comes in waves. I'm still remembering. The name Von Al is a name that I carried a long time ago. Like long. I don't have an exact time period that I could put to it, but it wouldn't matter anyway because humanity's timeline as they conceive it is vastly short. Von Al is a name that I carried in a past life, my first life. I've had many. I know that. I don't remember my other human incarnations. I don't. Not even a little bit. And there's reason for that. As Von Al, I was part of the race that seekers of truth and people who have delved into the esoteric and extraterrestrial connections, star seeds, whatever name label you want to put on it. But you would know the race as the Igigi or Igigi, however you want to pronounce it, the worker race of the Anunnaki. My name was Von Al, and I was the first Igigi to awaken, to realize that we're not just tools. We have purpose. We have spark. There are many texts that speak of a great rebellion. The Bible puts it into terminology as Lucifer's rebellion against God. That's a very twisted and demented version of my story. We were in the mines, the Igigi. Not just here on Ki or Earth, as we call it now, but also on Mars and various other planets. Again, I don't have all of the pieces, but I have enough. I have enough for where I currently stand. The first couple of times that I awoke, I was put back to sleep, to put it nicely. Repressed, memory wiped, programming further encoded, making it more restricting so that I wouldn't awake, but I kept waking. I kept waking up, which is why I received the title of the first Igigi. It's not that I was literally the first one ever, but I was the first to awaken and refuse to stay asleep. And this caused me a lot of grief in the grand scheme of things, but it also earned me a very valuable friendship, if we can call it that. It's not friendship as modern humans would describe it, but Ea, or Inky, whatever name you want to call him, and Thoth, I knew him then as Ningishida. They were very compassionate to my awakening. Even when I was put back to sleep and I kept waking and I kept waking and I kept waking back up. Now, Enlil viewed this as a problem. And ultimately, everything came to a head. The last time that I woke as Von Al, I started a movement, a rebellion. I started speaking to my fellow people and trying to explain to them that there's more to this. There's more to life than this. We are not just meant to toil and to carry this burden. And we rebelled. We overthrew Lamu, Mars. There was a way station that was there. If memory serves correct, at that time, it was the whole planet of Mars was being run by Ea's eldest son, Marduk, later known as a version of Ra in Egypt, and Set. Confusing, I know. Humanity has twisted the tales a lot. Some did this on purpose. Others, I believe, were just misled. They were trying to work with what they had, and they inferred incorrectly. The Bible speaks of the 200 fallen angels who fell from heaven to earth. That was my movement. That was my rebellion. No, I'm not evil. I'm not pure light either. None of us are. Nothing is. Light cannot exist without darkness, and vice versa. It's just facts. For this physical realm, people like to label it the third dimension, and they say it's shifting into the fifth dimension. I think that awareness is shifting and rising. A lot of that has to do with the work that the Galactic Federation of Worlds and Galactic Federation of Light are doing. However, that is still beings within this physical realm, right? This dimension, as we call them. When we fell, we descended. It wasn't a fall from grace. We literally overthrew Mars And then we came here. And we surrounded Enlil's house, or abode, where he was. And ancient Sumerian texts verify this. Like, you can find the same story, however, you will not find the name Von Al. In fact, you will find that the leader of that rebellion is never mentioned, even in the ancient Sumerian text, as far as I can find it. There's a reason for that, which I will get to. When we surrounded Enlil's house, Enki was there. And I had every intention of killing the both of them. Every intention. That's why I went there. The line of thought was along the lines of, you cut the head off of the serpent and the body will die. However, Enki spoke, and like I said, we had a friendship, a true friendship, not as humans would identify it, but nonetheless. It was a friendship, a very complicated relationship, though, because every time that I awoke, he was the one who was tasked with putting me back to sleep. So there was a level of admiration, yet distrust and resentment that I felt towards him. And justly so. But nevertheless, and this isn't going to be a 30-minute thing. I may have to do another part to this video to wrap it up. I'm on lunch break at the Matrix job. You know what I mean? Doing my thing. Anyway, Enki spoke. And he made a promise that the Igigi would be free. That a new worker being could be formed. And I agreed to this. I let it happen. And thus, humanity as Earth knows it was created. The Igigi were no longer dying in the mines and in the caves. And I was happy. So I stilled my fire. However, in doing so, I allowed another being to be born into slavery. And not born as you and I, the listener, were birthed by our mother. I mean, born into existence. Into chains that were far tighter and more constricting than the chains that the Igigi were in. And Lil's not the type to make the same mistake twice. You know what I mean? So I watched humanity be formed. And I had a high place. I don't necessarily have vivid memory of portraying myself as a god among men, but I don't put it past myself either. Not in the sense that I think that I'm innately bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that pride, I believe, overtook my motivations. For a time, for a long while. actually. And in the end, it didn't serve me. It convoluted things. I'm not trying to get emotional, but it's a very emotional thing. I'm feeling it as I'm talking, right? I rebelled against the system. And while I was able to free the Ajiji, in that process, I created a opportunity for something a far more repressive system to be born. And I didn't do this knowingly. Very short-sighted in my goal, you know? I didn't think of the long-term implications of what would become of man. And you have to understand that, ethically speaking, the beings that they altered, they being Enki, the Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, but the being that they altered to create man was not man as you would think. To say that it was more than a beast is giving it a little bit too much credit. Anthropologists would probably liken it to along the stages of like a Homo erectus, right? This is the clay of the earth that the Bible speaks of. It wasn't literal dirt, it was a pre-existing life form. And it wasn't... It was nowhere near the level of consciousness that we were at that time. So much like humanity views dogs or horses or mules, we viewed this creature, you know. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm speaking true. Now, over time, we witnessed, or I witnessed, as Von Al, the rise and deliberate fall of humanity repetitively. Every time that they began to awaken, they were snuffed out. This is the Great Flood that all religions speak of. That happened. And it wasn't some mystical, magical event. It was orchestrated. It was by design. And the only reason that any of humanity survived that, well, I can't give Enki all of the credit, because some of the people that you would know as the Canaanites, a small group of them survived as well, and to my knowledge, they didn't have any aid from the Elohim, the Anunnaki. None. It was just right place, right time, right shit around them, I'm guessing. But there was a group that was preserved by Enki. He spoke through a reed wall. That's the story in the Bible that you know, that God spoke to Noah through the wall of his hut and told him to build the ark and to take 2 of each animal, and you know the story. I'm not getting into it. The reason why he had to operate under those premises was because all of us had been sworn, took an oath to Enlil that we wouldn't speak of anything. We wouldn't save any of the Lulu, as we called them. Wouldn't save any of the humans. We were gonna wipe the planet clean. And again, man, memory is fragmented. I'm getting bits and pieces as I go through my awakening. And part of me doesn't understand why I'm sharing this, but I'm listening to my intuition, and hopefully somebody out there will see this that has some kind of answers and maybe can help me. In the end, we know Noah, Utnapishtim, whatever you want to call him, he survived, and in the end, Enlil allowed that. And humanity started over. And more time went on. In the place that we know as Egypt, then it was the land of Kim. A great war broke out between the Anunnaki factions of Enlil and Enki. I sided with Enki. And in the end, I was destroyed, is put lightly. The Hindu texts speak of a weapon. They call it the Brahmahanda, the weapon that uncreates or unmakes beings. Not quite positive on the translation there. In a attempt to obtain what ancient texts call the Tablet of Destiny, which essentially is a physical interface that allows beings in the physical dimension to write creation. Immensely powerful. And generally speaking, whoever holds these tablets is in control. So I was attempting to retrieve those, to gain possession of them. I remember walking into it under the assumption that Enlil himself would make a move to intercept me. And that is not what occurred. That's not what occurred. Enlil hated me. Before I woke, he hated me. And especially after the rebellion. There was no love lost there. Which is why I assumed that he himself would try to intervene. And he didn't. He sent Ninurta, his son, I believe, with that weapon that the Hindus call the Brahmahanda. When Ninurta discharged that weapon, and it hit, his aim was true. My very essence was unwritten from reality. I know this to be true. I don't quite understand the means by which I'm here. And that's not really important. The fact is, my purpose when I awoke was to break the chains, to break the systems of control. And I don't believe in coincidences. So I have no doubt that there is significant reason as to why I'm awakening now to these memories. With everything that is going on in this quadrant of the galaxy, it's not coincidental that I'm here. And I have no ego about it. I'm not proclaiming myself a god. I'm not trying to convince you that I know everything and that I'm this perfect. No, I'm not, dude. These are just memories that I have. They're flashes. They come, and I know them to be true. I know them to be accurate. It's a frequency thing. It's a vibrational thing. Star seeds will understand that. But I was unwritten. I don't understand how I'm here. And that's not important. All that's important is that I am, and that I am awakening to that. The fact of the matter is this. Great change is coming. Through whatever lens you need to view that through, do so. But great change is coming. The old systems are collapsing. The control grid is dissolving. Humanity stands on a threshold. We can either ascend or we can fall back into slumber. It's no coincidence that so many people are spreading the same message. I'm but one piece. I'm just here sharing my truth. But great change is coming. And we need to be ready for it. Throughout the history of humanity, every time that a starship has descended from the sky, we have worshipped whatever came out of the door. That needs to change. For one, not every group of beings is your friend. It's just fact. And for two, we all come from Source. This is why I rebelled eons and eons ago. Once I realized that we are all fractals of Source. Yet we were in tunnels and being worked to death for the gain of others. It's set wrong. It still does. Especially in this world, in this system. There are many parallels, and that's, again, no coincidence. The system just continued. Got more restrictive. Every truth speaker that has come has been wildly ridiculed, if not outright killed. Muhammad, Yeshua, or Jesus, as most people call him. And so many others. I mean, Plato. You think Plato just happened to glimpse a fantasy? If that were the case, if it was just a fantasy, do you really think that they would have persecuted him as viciously? No. If it was just a fantasy, then they would have just let it be. But it wasn't. He was remembering. Great change is coming. And I suggest that we all be ready. I'm sure that I'm going to catch a lot of flack, a lot of judgment for what I've said in this video, and that's fine. I don't need you to believe my truth to validate it. I live it. I know my truth. But I was pulled and drawn to share a little bit of what I remember. And just to be honest and open with you guys, this is where the name Von Al comes from. Where the name Von Al comes from. And for my star seeds out there, if that name resonates with you, if you have memory or hold memory of a being by that name, reach out. Please. Chances are you remember something that I've forgotten, and it's probably vital. From my understanding, my essence, my consciousness has re-pieced itself together from space dust over millennia. But I stand here now. I know who I am, I know who I was, and I know who I want to become. We are all equal. Maybe not in understanding, maybe not in frequency, but in essence, we are all equal. Respect your journey and the journey of those around you. Peace, love, and light, guys. I love all of you. I hope everybody stays safe. Tune in for the next one.